Hello viewers, welcome to the very first episode of Oikos Conversations, meaning a home for conversations. Today we're commemorating the World Mental Health Day, running under the theme, Make Mental Health and Well-Being a global priority, meaning to say that each and every person should prioritize their mental health. And today I've invited a highly esteemed guest in the room who know more about mental health, and also we have people who are representing our religious sector. As we all know that religion plays a very pivotal role in our day-to-day life. And we all know that currently in Zimbabwe, we've experienced a surge in cases of suicide. And sadly, most of the people who are committing suicide are males. Not to say that women are not also experiencing mental health problems. And we're going to discuss the causes of mental health. We're going to discuss the effects, and we're also going to derive the ways in which we can help to curb these mental health problems. But before we delve into the main issue of the day today, I'm going to allow our guests to introduce themselves. So over to you from the right.
Hello viewers, my name is Stigma. I'm a mental health awareness ambassador from an organization called Be Mindfit, and I'm also a mind fitness coach. I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you, and over to you.
Hello viewers, my name is Reverend Wilfred Domingo. I am the incoming General Secretary for the Zimbabwe Council of Churches.
Hello viewers, I'm Prince Mtandi. I'm the Secretary of Education as a member of Sindata Traditional Healers Association.
Thank you very much for the introductions. Before we go into the causes of what mental health, of the causes of mental health, I would want to ask Jersey, what really is mental health? Because most people in our societies, they do not know what mental health is.
You're very right, Elizabeth. The word mental health has been, I think it's one of the most misunderstood words or concepts in our society. And I believe that's the reason why the cases of mental health are on the rise in our communities and in our society. I'll try to describe what mental health is using the simplest of terms so that everyone will follow. Mental health could be understood or regarded as a condition, a person's condition, or their state of their emotion and their mind at a particular time. So when you're talking about mental health, we are saying, how are you mentally and how are you emotionally at a given time? Now, what then that means is that mental health is not the same as mental illness. Because many times when you say to people, let's talk about mental health, people are quick to think that you are saying, let's talk about mental health disorders or mental illnesses. And therefore, no one wants to be associated with that. Okay. Or when you call for such a meeting, people are saying, I'm not affected. I don't have any mental health issues. And they don't want to be involved. Yet when we are talking about mental health, we are just saying, we are talking about someone's condition, and someone's condition could be good mental health or bad mental health. Now, let me just give an example. Suppose we are right here, right now, and we are having the discussion, and I'm probably very excited about it. I'm like, yes, I'm doing what I love and stuff like that. So in other words, we could say my mental health is good.
Okay.
Right? And then let's say we leave this place and I go home. And I'm supposed to prepare for another discussion that's coming in the evening. And then I find out that there is no zesta at home. And then my cortisol, which is the stress hormone, shoots up. And I'm stressed out. And I panic. And I just start sweating and my heart is pumping. What is that? It means that my mental health at that point is now bad. But now having a bad mental health does not mean that I have a mental health condition or a mental illness. It just means that your state, it's like your temperature. Sometimes the temperature is cool, like we are in this very cool place, our temperature is cool, but the moment we go outside, the temperature is high. So mental health just says, where are you at a particular time? So when we say let's have discussions about mental health, we are saying how well are you or how bad are you in terms of your mental health, so that if you are well, we commend you and we recommend you to keep doing whatever you are doing so that you remain mentally well. And if we discover that your mental health is at risk, we say, okay, you need to probably do 1, 2, 3 so that you move towards the center, or better still, you tilt towards the mental wellness half of the issue. So in other words, that's what mental health is.
Okay, thank you so much, Jessie. Over to you, Jessie. I want to know what exactly are the terminologies that are used to when you want to talk about mental health, because some people confuse mental illness and mental health problems. What exactly, what are the right words to use?
Okay, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that question. You know, sometimes the society creates words for themselves, and these words might not be words which are actually the right terminology. And sometimes these words can actually lead into worsening the condition. For instance, if we're looking at the mental health issues, a lot of people have been named after certain names, but normally when you're looking at it's the state of mind of a human being, it's not something that you can actually call those names. So whenever people hear this, or maybe let's say the family is associated that, so that this family is such a family, or maybe I can't talk about the names, but you know some of the names. So the issue is we need to actually treat these people with dignity. The most appropriate ways that we should use is mental health is just like an illness or any other sort of illness. It's not about any other thing that you might think of. So we need to use appropriate ways which are actually accepted within our communities, and we need to transform ourselves to use appropriate ways.
So in other words, are we saying that if someone is suffering from mental health challenges, can we say that it's an illness, or can we say that it's just a problem?
It is an illness, but this illness can actually be treated.
Okay.
So we're saying it's just a deviation. Like what you said that it's like your temperature just actually raised, but then the next morning it's not normal. So this is just an illness, a deviation from the normal, but this can actually be corrected or treated, given that we are actually supportive.
Okay, I'm coming back to you, Jessie, on what are the causes of mental health in our society, and how then do you identify that you're suffering from mental health problems? Because most people don't really know that. They might just think it's just one of those emotional times that you're going through and not even know that they're suffering from mental health.
Okay, thank you for that very important question. Now, there are different or varied reasons or causes of mental health conditions. I'll probably touch maybe 5 or 4 of them.
Okay.
The first one is biological reasons. What could happen with you is could have suffered from depression, for example,
okay,
and then it was passed on to you through the bloodline. It might actually skip your father and come and settle on you. So there are some conditions medically that pass through the bloodline, and mental health conditions are one of those.
Okay.
So usually I always say to people when I talk to them, it's difficult for you to then just say to yourself, you know what, I'm not affected. This doesn't affect me, because you don't know what you has suffered from. So it therefore kind of puts everyone at risk of developing a mental health condition, not to scare people, but just to say to everybody, we need to be prepared for the worst, or we just need to take care of our mental health so that even if we had a relative who suffered before us, it is not going to, develop into a fully blown condition.
Okay.
Then secondly, we have environmental factors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you have had usually when a woman is carrying a baby, she is told not to drink beer, she's told not to take substances or to smoke.
Yeah.
This is because those things do not only affect the physical development of a child, it also affects the mental health of a child. So the environment that you grow in if suppose your parent or your mom has got bipolar, for example,
okay,
it might be possible that she may pass it on to you.
exactly.
I was talking to this psychologist the other time, and she was telling me that sometimes even if you are nursing a baby and you're breastfeeding her,
Mm-hmm.
and you are depressed, you can actually pass it on
Really?
to the baby. Just exactly. So the environmental factors are very critical in terms of mental health, The other environmental factor could be the place where you grow up. And suppose you grow up at a place where there's just so much violence, people are beating each other up, or even in the home when mom and daddy are beating each other up, that could actually compromise your mental health. And then also the other reasons for mental health conditions is traumatic experiences. And this usually applies to young people who probably were abused as kids, either physically, emotionally, or sexually. When you are abused, say at 1 year, 3 months, definitely when you are your age, you cannot remember that. Your mind kind of hides it somewhere because you don't remember things that happened back then. But the part of your mind called the subconscious mind does not forget. At some point, it wants to then come out and say, hey, I was abused at some point. And then it might cause you to develop a mental health problem. PTSD does not only affect young children, it also affects elderly people. Let's say, for example, you're going home and then you come across robbers, they hijack you, they steal from you and stuff like that. And you really go through a traumatic experience that can actually drive you towards developing a mental health problem. And then the other cause is chronic stress. You know, sometimes we go through situations and circumstances that we are not able to deal with by ourselves. And sometimes we might even try to get help, but we don't get adequate help. And the stress then begins to grow until it exceeds the standard or the level that your body is able to manage. And then you might snap into a mental health condition. And maybe lastly, some medical conditions can actually cause someone to develop a mental health condition, as well as some medications that you may be put on when you are trying to treat something else might actually cause you to become depressed or to be anxious and stuff like that. So those are some of the reasons or the causes of mental health conditions in our societies.
Thank you very much, Josie. That was so informative. I didn't know that you can actually pass it on to children if you're a lactating mother. So over to you, Reverend. I want to ask, in terms of Christianity, do you believe that mental health problems do really exist in our society?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes, mental health problems do actually exist in our society. When you look at the Bible, although it is not explicitly mentioned, but elements of mental health can be seen in the Bible. From the very beginning, the creation story itself, when God created man and he was satisfied and he looked at him and said, all is good. It's an issue of wellness and mental health. That's where it starts. And even when Christ came saying, the Spirit of the Lord on Luke chapter 4 is upon me, he has anointed me to preach the good news to the poor, to the oppressed. It's all the issues of mental health. Once all those things are addressed and people are living in peace and they are not facing any challenge, they are not oppressed and there's no anxiety. And even in the book of John, when he said, I came that you might have life and have life in abundance. So when you look at it as Christians, we believe that there is mental health issues that can trouble people, but also, even though it's not mentioned explicitly, you can actually, we need to appreciate that there is a very thin dividing line within Christianity between demonic things and mental health, of which is something that people need to understand. Jesus said today, looking at the issues that are affecting us, I think one of the issues that you would mention explicitly is mental health. Because Jesus was meant to, his mission was to address the issues that were affecting people in their day-to-day living. So in the long and short of it, yes, in Christianity, there is that appreciation and understanding that mental health issues are a challenge.
Okay, but in that Christianity world, are you also having people that would come to you asking for help in terms of their well-being?
Yes, people do come. At times they will not even mention that I'm having a mental health issue. but from the issues being discussed, that's when you can realize that this person has got a mental health issue. During counseling sessions, you can tell from what Chichi was saying about issues of sexual abuse, issues of violence, domestic violence, all those issues, they attribute to mental health issues. So quite a number of people, but the challenge is most of the people don't even realize that they've got mental health issues, but they are so prevalent even within the Christian community.
Okay, thank you so much, Rev. Over to you, Mr. Mutandi. Do you believe that mental health problems actually exist in our society?
Yeah, actually, mental health in our African traditional religion, it has been existing.
Okay.
We look at our approach is in a holistic way, whereby we look into the spiritual side and the physical side.
Okay.
So with the spiritual side, normally what we understand from, we've got also attacks of witchcraft, which we call Doma.
Okay.
We have got also issues to do with the avenging spirits.
Okay.
Which is part of what mental health. Even if you don't pay local life, you might understand. It can also it can have also mental health. If we that is on our spiritual side, which we check and see as traditional healers, and it has been existing. We have got some kind of rituals which are done,
okay,
which we do in our traditional healing practice, trying to put off the evil spirits. It's also part of the mental health.
okay.
Yes. So with mental health, in our African traditional religion, it has been there. It has got some, we have got the existence of it.
Okay.
And it's now somewhat different. Even if you know of Ngozi,
okay,
yes, which we call, if you kill someone, you know, that's the one whom you kill, who also come and haunt you. You are being affected with mental health. That's the way our way of approach with the traditional healing side, with our African traditional religion. We normally look to the spiritual side. Then we check also the physical side. That's what we do.
Okay. So in terms of now you checking the physical side, because you've mentioned about how you can help someone through rituals in the spiritual world.
Yes.
How about the physical side? Now, how do you help them to deal with their mental health problems?
With the mental health, that's what we've got some way of doing some ritual cleansing and the likes, even making some ritual prayers, giving some kind of medication. But you should check and see the where actually is the mental health coming from. If it is of not paying your mumbeo mai, it is affecting you. If you have got an attack of Doma, if it is the thing that is causing you even having that kind of hallucination or the hearing of voices, we try to check if it is from the witchcraft, so that we know how best we can deal with it if we are doing our ritual healing and the ritual cleansing. That's what with the traditional healers, that's why sometimes if someone is got an attack of Doma, yeah, if it is an attack of Doma, is what we really understand that no, this one is having mental health, because he'll be hearing voices, talking on his own, and we have got some kind of rituals which we sometimes we use some chickens in our traditional healers. Normally, that's where they can use the chicken to drive out the bad spirit which is affecting the person.
Okay.
So we understand it's evil. As we understand it's something we don't take mental health as something that just come in our African traditional religion. we might see that one might fall into that problem because probably it didn't pay lobola, probably it's either he killed someone, it's coming as a form of an avenging spirit or an attack from the stomach. We also we think of witchcraft also has got something to do with mental illness.
Okay.
In our African traditional ring because of our beliefs.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Mtandi. But in an instance whereby, let's say, giving an example, that I am stressed, I am suffering from stress, I've got issues that are depressing me, and then I come for help. How then do you help me? Because this is more of a physical side.
Yeah, with the physical side, first we check with the spiritual side, how your ancestors, your guides.
All right.
Yes. Yeah, they're protecting, or probably they are not. If they are not protecting you, in what is it made you to fall into that problem? So then we come up to the physical side. That is where we'll be, if we are to do some ritual prayers for you, if we are to do a kind of a cleansing, but we first check with the spiritual side first.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Mtandi. Now coming over to you, Josie, can you please give us a list, a brief explanation on what you think is really causing the increase of suicide cases in Zimbabwe right now?
Thank you for asking that $1 million question. But I want to start by saying that this is a global issue. The rise in suicide cases is just not a Zimbabwe thing. It is a global thing. And according to the World Health Organization, in 2019, 703,000 people lost their lives to suicide. And they also say that every 40 seconds, someone is taking their life through suicide. And furthermore, for one successful suicide, there are 20 attempts, of which one of the high-risk factors for committing suicide is someone who ever tried committing suicide before. So that just gives you a picture of how the issues are quite at a global level. But then looking at probably the causes both at global and local level, I think we could say that it could be mainly related to the issues of pressure and stress that people are going through. Our world is changing. There's a lot of disruption that is happening in our world. The way we used to do life in the 80s has just changed. The speed at which life is going has changed. We are now moving to the 5G. And sometimes our systems were not created by God to move at such a speed. We have to be doing so many things at the same time. So at the end of the day, the level of stress are always rising. And now the biggest challenge being that we have not been taught on how to manage our stress effectively. Therefore, the people who end up committing suicide, like there was a research that was saying probably up to about 54% of people who commit suicide are because they will be experiencing depression. They will be going through a depression. And then the other 40-something percent is because someone just got faced with a situation that they were not able to deal with. And as a result, they end up experiencing so much pressure that their system or their body cannot handle, and they end up committing suicide. So in summary, I could say people are going through so much, but the level of pressure has not been matched with the level of tools that we can use to manage stress and pressure at any given time in our lives.
So the changes that are happening in the world, they're actually making people stressed.
Absolutely. Globalization, the COVID-19, actually, there was a research which was saying that there was a surge in mental health cases following COVID. And I think that is obvious for all of us, because everyone was stressed during COVID. You were stressed that maybe I'm going to catch the virus, or you were so scared that my loved one will catch the virus. Am I going to die? Am I going to get sick? Am I going to need a ventilator? Will I find a bed in hospital if this happens? If my loved one... So there was, and then the lockdown on its own, the isolation, the quarantine, all those things had a huge, enormous impact on our brains. And then when our brains are put through that much pressure, sometimes we experience what they call in medical terms brain chemical brain imbalances. And then at the end of the day, someone succumbs into a mental health condition.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Rev. What do you think is causing the rise of suicide cases in the country right now?
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. There are quite a number of issues at play. Like what Jessie mentioned, she mentioned most of the things, especially after COVID, the COVID era, the number of suicide cases have just risen. Quite a number of people lost their sources of livelihood, and a number of things happened. And also the economic situation here in Zimbabwe has caused a number of suicide cases as well, because people are struggling, some lost their jobs, some cannot fend for their families, some even change of lifestyle. A person who used to earn a lot and now everything crumbles and starting to readjust to a certain level of life. All those things are some of the major issues, just adding on what Jess have just mentioned.
Now, the economic problems that people are facing and all those other challenges. Why is it these cases are rising now? Because if you look back in the history, people have always had economic hardships. People have always had all those other challenges that we are facing now. Why is it we're now having these problems now?
I think the other challenge is that the coping mechanisms themselves and the world that we are living in now, people are so isolated. At times, people are not bold enough to open up on the challenges that they are facing. And also the element of being a society is no longer there. So everyone is just each man for himself and God for us all. And some people don't have the opportunity to find someone to share with. And also, as you said, that these problems have always been there, but the levels also change. So the levels just change, and you can realize that everyone is just trying to save. No time to look at the other person now. And particularly here in Africa, we are people who used to live as a community, each other. But these days, our I would like to believe that one of the things that has caused suicides is the drug and substance abuse among young people. Yeah, it is now very prevalent, and it's something that has caused the rise in suicide cases as well. But it's something that the society has not really understood that it's among us, and it's affecting quite a number, especially to the young people. And some of them who are indulging in it, and they find themselves in trouble, and they end up committing suicide. So it's something that is really happening now.
Do you think that this whole globalization concept and this whole technological advancement is also causing an increase into mental health problems?
Thank you so much. This is reality. When you look at way back, I think from what we've encountered and what we've had and so forth, people used to live like a family, like what Trey was saying. The aspect of Ubuntu was amongst people, so that whenever somebody encounters a problem, he knows who to tell. Even the next person, no matter how much they know each, he could actually pull down and say out his issue, and then that person could actually offer help. But these days, at times, you find that people are now self-centered. They don't have time for the next person. So each time, whenever I've got a problem, even if I know this person might help me, or I might actually suspect what is the person going to say if I tell him my issue, what is he going to say, what is he going to say about me, and so forth. So because of that, I started having a lot of issues within my mind, and that should lead me not to share my issue with anybody else. So those are some of the issues which are actually happening. And another thing is, whenever you're looking at the aspect of technology, I think technology led the young people to be more of people who needs to see what's behind the sun and so forth. They experiment in a number of aspects, a number of issues, because whenever you're looking at the drug and substance abuse, some of the formulations of those drugs and so forth, you wonder, how can someone think maybe a globe, you can actually burn it and actually extract something to smoke? So people, because of technology, they are now actually discovering funny things which actually dispose them to some form of mental illness.
So we're saying that people have the spirit of Ubuntu. They are now too individualistic these days.
That's very true.
Okay, and also social media is also causing these problems.
That's very true.
Over to you, Mr. Mutandi. Do you think that this changing world is affecting us in our society?
Yeah, with this changing world, I can see that especially young people, they are now since they are taking this drug substance and also with the economic challenges is also contributing. But we understand also from our traditional point, like if you don't have got issues to do with spirituality, which have been existing long before, like if you don't pay lobola and everything, mobile mayage, it also comes to affect you. And in our African traditional religion, we understand when one commits suicide, it's like it's not just it does not just happen to be something new, but it has got a record. It goes with the family line, the lineage. Normally, it's not easy for someone to commit suicide in our African traditional religion. It used to be a form of a taboo to see someone committing suicide, and you can see how we handle even the burial system of someone who commits suicide. You are not allowed even to cry, even to mourn the one who commits suicide. So we try to separate the one who commits suicide as a way of closing the gaps, so that in line to family, you won't see someone also committing suicide, because in our spiritual world, what we believe in, it's like in our African traditional religion, when one dies, he goes to his own tribe. That's in our belief, yes, in our African traditional religion. So even if one commits suicide, we have got a kind of a way of burying that very kind of person, to separate, so that he or she won't even try to call others to die in that same way. That used to be in our culture. We used to separate it so that others won't die the same way like that. But nowadays, with what we are seeing, it's more like in the young people, they are taking a lot of drugs, Toriro or what that, like Zimbabwe, what is happening. They can easily commit suicide due to some unemployment problem, economic hardships. Is also what we can see that young people are, because young people are doing, which is somewhat different in our African traditional religion. Because committing suicide wasn't something, it was a form of a taboo. It was not so common to see someone committing suicide. Yeah, but I think with this global world, with what is happening, we used to live in an extended family, whereby we used to have people have to, if we are having some problems in the extended family, the auntie, the grandfathers, they used to play their part. But now, since now people are very isolated, there is no longer the extended family, whereby if I take my own drugs, no, I'll think on my own way. That's the way how the world is. It's now changing. It's quite different. We are no longer more like what we used to be as a family. People are too isolated. Yeah, those are the other issues which we can see if we could follow our African traditional religion, because otherwise we could try to find our position.
Okay.
And like we know with this global world, we should learn to pick some and throw some, especially with this youth. I understand this Torino, which we do, it's something new to us. We don't know about that. It is a lot of them will take Torino, they commit suicide. I understand. Yeah, but it wasn't so common to see people committing suicide in our African traditional religion.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's because of the economic issues, which is causing the people to indulge into this kind of, by taking these substances.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, just to take you back a little bit, what is the proverb that you use? When
I say that it's more like these young children. It's now different. Because once you are told wakasara, without anything, and I know I'm to whereby I think my youth, they starting their own new world, which is quite somewhat different from us, because in our tradition we used to what my father did, I must also do what he did. That used to be our African traditional religion. But nowadays you can see, because they do, young people, they don't have time to listen to their fathers, because they spend much of the time, probably the social media, I think, is something which is also having a problem to it, because even my child cannot listen to me. Yeah, because he no longer, but long back they used to listen to us. To what and nowadays they enjoy the social media system, and if they go to school, after school they come home, they don't have time to sit with the parents. It's somehow, I might be talking to my child, he or we will be busy on their phone talking to a boyfriend or something different, which is quite, I think that's the global world. I don't, yeah, but I think we can blame also these new dynamics.
Okay.
Changes, yes.
All
We should learn to pick some across, because we need our identity as Africans. I think.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Mtandi. Over to you, Rev. Do you think that suicide is somehow linked to spirituality?
What I can say is that yes and no.
Okay.
Because we wouldn't want to overemphasize the spiritual side of it, but obviously it is, because we are spiritual beings. When my spirit is troubled, that's where the issues of mental health starts. And for me, that way, I can say yes. This is why I said yes. Although, like what Mr. Mtandi was saying, that there might be other spiritual things behind. Yes, as Africans, people can believe that, but I personally believe that once the spiritual state of a person is troubled, it affects his mental health, and then it can lead it can lead to suicide. So that's the spiritual element. But by and large, the whole issue is that when a person is troubled and has failed to find solutions or to find a better way of coping with the issues of life and the issues that that person will be facing, that's what results in a person committing suicide. So this is why I said yes and no, because I wouldn't want to overemphasize the spiritual side, which we know we cannot control. But I believe that the issues of mental health are issues that can be addressed. That it's not something that is beyond what we can do, because I want to run away from the idea that there are some mental health issues that may lead to someone to commit suicide as spiritual. They cannot be solved. Then no human person can avoid it or can address it. But I believe that the most important thing is to create the environment that will make that will lessen the challenges of mental health and ultimately the challenges that we are facing of the rise in suicide.
I've had incidents whereby people are being told to go to church for prayers so that they can be prayed for, because they believe that mental health problems, they are demonic. Do you think that is linked?
Prayer. I believe in the power of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Prayer. I'll give you an example of somebody who is suffering from cancer. We can pray for that person, but also because we believe that God heals, but also we encourage that person to seek professional help. So because also God uses those professionals to administer, say, chemotherapy. So we pray and seek help at the same time. So when somebody is referred to church to something, if he's has got a mental health issue and has been referred to church, yes, we pray, but we also advise people to seek professional help, so that as we pray, we also pray for those specialists who offer professional help, so that God may continue to give them wisdom. I'll give you an example of the story in the book of Luke chapter 10, the Good Samaritan. That Jesus gives an example, tells that story. What that man who had been beaten wanted was somebody to take care of him, somebody to bandage the wound, somebody to accompany that person until that person recovers. So it's the same thing, because we need to appreciate that mental health issues that may lead people to commit suicide. It's a condition that can address. It's a condition that we are capable of creating an environment to accompany those people and to help them so that they can be restored to a good state of mental health.
Rev, over to you, Jesse. What do you think are the effects of mental health problems?
When you're looking at the main effects of mental health, I think that's quite broad, because when you're looking at mental health, we're saying the normal state of the individual has been altered. So when you're looking at a human being as a whole, the mental state is one of the determinants of the lifestyle of somebody. So whenever this the whole engine is altered, it means everything is now altered. So some of the effects, they actually range. We are looking at the upkeep or the general awareness of the person is affected. The normal living. So let's say you are supposed to wake up in the morning, you go to the toilet, you bath, you cook, you eat, and so forth. That process can actually be altered. So that's one of the effects that we can actually find in relation to mental health. Then the second one, we might actually look at once this happens, we are saying this may not affect that individual only, but we can actually stretch now to the next person. You are used to care for this person or maybe your kids, but you can no longer go to work to care for that person. So automatically, the lifestyle of that kid has been affected as well. So then you're supposed to work for the nation and have food on the table, and then that nation moves forward. But now that you're not working because of Ndoro, you're just somewhere, you're not able to perform. It also means that the status of the country has been affected. So production, self-production, the national production is something that can be affected. And then most we are looking at your health status. You're no longer well. So that means you now need to seek for help. You now need somebody who can actually help you, the medical attention, the medical care, so that you get back to your normal state so that you can actually operate.
So over to you, Josie. How do you then identify that someone is going through mental health issues?
Okay, there are so many things that may be your warning signs or your red lights to say someone could be going through a mental health issue. And they also differ according to what condition that a person could be suffering from. But in general, when I think I gave an example earlier on that sometime after leaving this place, I probably go home and I discover that there is no ZESA, and then I just panic and I get into a panic attack, something like that. We cannot go around saying that I have a mental health condition, but I'm just mentally unwell at that point. There are times when someone experiences some of the symptoms that I'm going to discuss here. It does not necessarily mean that this person is a mental health condition, because some of the emotions that we go through are very natural and normal for human beings to go through because of the experiences that we go through. I mean, we go through emotions, good and bad. It just shows that we are alive, right? Now, when some of the symptoms that I'm going to highlight here have carried on for days, weeks, months, and years, non-stop, or you're having those symptoms more than you feeling well, then it becomes a matter of concern. And I want to echo what Reverend said to the effect that whenever you find yourself experiencing such things, it is highly recommended that you go to seek medical assistance before things get out of hand, because early intervention is something that is always recommended. I mean, be it cancer, be it high blood pressure, be it any condition, if you get help at the early stages, then it's much easier to get help. And it also much easier sometimes to recover fully, because there are people who recover fully from mental health conditions, like fully, but there are some people who then have to live with the condition, but they will be on treatment and on other self-care methods that they could be using. So these are some of the things that someone, if they experience, they may need to get checked and just be sure that it's not just a normal thing, but it is mental health related. So we have things like chronic sadness. Sometimes you feel sad for no apparent reason at all. Or sometimes something that happens, which is really not that important, something very minor, and then you are sad for days. It could be an indication that something is wrong. And then sometimes people get so confused. You usually were very sharp when you were doing your work or when you're talking to people, but all of a sudden you discover that you struggle to reason, you struggle to think, you are feeling confused, and your ability to concentrate has just been reduced. Sometimes it could be a sign that something is wrong. And then sometimes someone could go through excessive fear, right? Or excessive worry over nothing. You just wake up and you're like shaking and you feel like something is just going to go wrong, yet there is nothing that would have gone wrong, or there is no indication that something is going to go wrong. That could be an indication that something is wrong. Or sometimes it's just extreme feelings of guilt. You did something very small. I mean, you just, took a sweet without having to ask for permission, and you spent 2 weeks feeling guilty about it. It's just an indication that something is not right with the system. And sometimes it's extreme mood changes. One day you are nice, you are talking to people, and in a second you just snap, to the effect that people can actually run away from you. So like, highs and lows, very rapid highs and lows could be an indication that something is wrong. And then one of the major red lights, especially for kids, it's withdrawal. when someone just withdraws, usually you are the kind of person who loves to go out with your friends, hanging out, having fun, and all of a sudden you start giving excuses, endless excuses to your friends or to your family. No, this weekend I can't come, and you actually lie, I'm actually out of the country. Why? Because you just feel like you want to stay in your room and you want to sleep. And usually we find that kids have a tendency, yes, it's part of teenagehood, it's part of growing, but there is a level that then exceeds just a teenage thing that parents need to start worrying about. And then sometimes it's excessive tiredness. You sleep for 9 hours, but you wake up feeling so tired. You're just exhausted. You try taking this energy drink and that concoction, but the tiredness does not go away. Yes, there are many other conditions that could cause that kind of tiredness, but it just could be a sign that there are issues coming your way. And sometimes you find that this one is probably the most common ones. This is what we usually refer to as a mental illness. This is where you are talking to someone and you realize that they're actually giving you responses to things that you haven't said. You're asking about your day and they start telling you about something else completely different. Then you can see that someone is delusional. And then definitely that is a clear sign that someone is not well at all mentally. And sometimes, as he said, it's just inability to cope with life. Usually you would go to work and your boss gives you a certain number of files to work on. You used to work on them by 3 o'clock, you are done and you wait to go home. And all of a sudden you just work on 2 files and you can't cope. You just feel like I can't. It's like your system is on freeze. That could be an indication that something is going wrong. And then sometimes some of the symptoms that you could be having some problems is irregular eating habits. You are either eating too much or you don't have an appetite at all. That could be an indication. So like I said, there are so many other conditions that could be that could actually give rise to such symptoms. So it's not always recommended for you to quickly say, just because I have this and that, I could be having a mental health condition, I need to rush and get this treatment. It's always recommended that someone needs to go to a medical practitioner who will then do proper diagnosis, and then they are put on treatment, because there are some other conditions that imitate the same symptoms with mental health conditions. So it's always important. Yes, take note. Yes, be aware of how you're feeling all the time, so that you can quickly say, I might not be feeling well, and then you quickly get yourself helped.
So speaking about there's problems, I just see, let's say I have a friend who's going through the same problems. Right. How do I tell that this person is suffering from mental health challenges? Because at times it could be normal mood swings, or if it's a girl, it's probably because she's in a menstrual cycle. Right. So how then do I identify that the next person is going through those problems?
It's the period. If your friend, that this girl at this time of the month, she's usually moody and stuff like that, then it's that time of the month. But then if you see that your friend is going through mood swings throughout the month, throughout the quarter, throughout the year, then definitely there is a problem. So one of the indicators is the number one, it's the time that this person has been going through this. And also sometimes it's the intensity. Because there's a normal sadness, and then there's a sadness which is beyond understanding, where sometimes you find that someone is just crying for no reason. They are crying the whole day. You ask her, what is the problem? They don't even know what the problem is. They end up lying to you so that at least they look like they are okay when they are not. So I think it's the season or the period that your friend or your loved one experiences those symptoms, and also the intensity. And also sometimes when you talk to them, and you try to figure out what it is that's bothering them, and to discover that the reasons are really, not justified, then it could be an indication that this person is suffering from, has developed a mental health condition.
Okay, that's very true, because I've experienced situations whereby you know that even if it's at school, be it at work, there are certain individuals that are just called by names because of their attitude, because of their mood swings, and actually they end up being separated from the others. They actually face stigma from the other colleagues. So that actually means that person actually going through some problems. So if you now notice that there's someone who's going through mental health problems, how do you deal with that? Do you talk to that person, or you look for someone who can help them?
Depending on how close you are to this person, it's important for you to talk to that person, and you just tell them that you are concerned about their behavior of late. Is anything going well or not well with you? Are there problems at home? Is it school? You try to find out from your friend or from your loved one what is going on. So talking to that person is very critical, because sometimes in most cases, when you start talking to someone, in most cases, okay, there are other people who just close up completely until you just hear that they've committed suicide. But in most cases, when you engage someone somehow and you show that you really are concerned and you are caring and you are there for them, they will pour out to you. And sometimes the fact that I've spoken to so many people whom after just pouring out to me, they actually felt better, and I'll be checking on them later on. Then they say, I know, you know what, I'm okay. So sometimes what someone needs is someone to talk to. So number one, it's very important to talk to that person and find out what it is really that is going on with them. If it is something that the two of you can talk about and resolve, then go ahead and do it. But if you discover that this case, or probably you discover that this friend is telling you something that is not real, that is when you probably need, if it's your friend and you're young, you need to probably engage their family to say, you know what, I'm just concerned. I think you need to check out and so because of what they are doing. And then you get help. And sometimes you might need, maybe the problem that your friend has is his or her family. You might actually need to say to them, look, can I go with you to look for someone that can help you? And I think the most, the first place that we can think of is to go and look for a medical doctor. Yes, they will then recommend you to go to a psychiatrist or to a psychologist. But because we want to get checked first at first entry, it's important to say, can I go with you to see a medical doctor? If they don't want to say, okay, can we at least go and see a counselor? Or at least can we go and see a pastor? Right. So it's important to always make sure that you are closer to your friend, you are asking them, you understand what it is they're going through, you offer to help. Sometimes you may not even need to say anything to them, because sometimes the things that we say may actually make them feel worse. I think he mentioned it. So sometimes it's just to sit and say nothing and do nothing, and keep asking, what else can I do to help you? What would you like me to do for you? And sometimes, in most cases, someone will open up to you and they're able. And then sometimes you may realize that they really, are not opening up at all. This is when you may need to really reach out, even go to the nearest medical center that you know, and say, you know what, I have a friend, but I don't even know what to do. Can you help? They'll definitely know what to do. So the very important thing that we need to do as humanity, as human beings, as families and friends, let's always be on the lookout for our friends. Let's look out for major changes that has taken place in terms of how this person speaks, how this person interacts, so that we are quick to reach out and assist. In most cases, if you listen to some of the testimonials of people who attempted suicide, they'll tell you that, you know what, all I wanted was someone to see that I was not okay and check out with me. But no matter, I often see on social media when someone probably commits suicide and people are talking about it, and people are busy saying, that was just attention seeking. And people don't really understand the intensity of what someone goes through before they commit suicide. In fact, everybody that commits suicide does not want to die. They just want to escape the pain that they are going through. And in most cases, someone gets to the point of committing suicide because they've realized that no one cares. They do all those attention seeking. And for your information, attention seeking is a red sign. When someone is seeking attention, something is not right. Because if you are well and okay, why would you seek anyone's attention? Not in that way. Depending on cases where someone then makes threats. That, you know what, one day I'll kill myself. No one cares about me. Those kind of attention seeking gimmicks. It's a sign that someone is in need of help. And then you need to reach out and help someone.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Before we move on, we just have a comment here on our Zoom. There's one from Winnet Vander. She's saying that I think I got confused along the way mental health was defined by Jesse and how it was described by Prince. It seems the way we understand mental health on Christianity's side is different from Atiara. Prince talked about avenging spirits. Does it mean if a person has mental disorder, that person has mental health condition? I'm confused. So I think I would give this to Jersey to respond, and also to give it to Mr. Mutandi to respond.
It's quite a difficult question. I should say, but my understanding is that whatever cause it is, whatever it is that has caused somebody to be unwell, it has disrupted the way their brain functions. Because for you to be said to be having a mental health condition means that your brain is not functioning well. So whether it's a spiritual attack, whether it's a ngozi, whether it's an environmental issue, whether it's a brain chemical issue, whether it's something that you took from your mom, it's all a condition because it works with the mind. I was talking to this person the other day and I was saying, you know what, I still believe that if someone bewitches you, they've dealt with your mind because this is where the disruption takes place. They have found a way of sneaking into, breaking your protocols, whatever it is, and accessing your brain, and they tampered with the way your brain functions. So yes, I would say that whether someone, whatever reason it is, the reason why I did not include spiritual issues on my list of the causes is because, you know how it is with spiritual issues, the authorities that be usually do not regard the spiritual issues as something to not, or they don't even agree that these things are there. But as we all know, as Africans, those things are there, and all those things. And that same cause, whether kuroiwa or whatever it is, it messes with your brain. Therefore, it becomes a mental health condition. How then this is dealt with, well, I wouldn't know, but I still believe that the same methods that is used for treating someone whose condition was caused by brain chemicals, you never know how God works, can actually work when someone then gets on treatment. They get some antidepressants and voila, the demons flee away.
On Mina's question.
Yeah, actually, with the way how it's different from the Christianity way in our African traditional religion, especially when we are talking in terms to avenging spirit. The spiritual world, people, they don't understand it. I know really, but the spiritual world also has got a part to play with the mental health. Because in our African traditional religion, we've got beliefs, our norms and values. If it is like it also affects, you will be affected mentally.
Yeah.
Yes. Even your mother is alive, but your ancestors, they won't be happy. That you yourself, you are kind of, you see, you end up affected with mental health. And also we've got to be the avenging spirits. With these avenging spirits, in our belief as in our African traditional religion, when one dies, actually, you go to his or your own tribe. And we don't believe, we are somehow in our hierarchy of prayers is different from the Christianity way. Because we go through, we start from the family spirit, then to our ancestor, our God. We talk of the Supreme God is the last. It's hard for us to talk directly to the God, and we believe that after, when one dies, you'll be actually received with his tribe. And the tribe, they will tell you what kind of, was it a good death? If it was a bad death, they will say they can empower you to go and fight back, coming as a form of what? A spirit, which we call the avenging spirit. You see, right. And that avenging spirit, it has got its own way. If you are supposed to pay back, isn't it? Have you ever heard of a case that happens in Gweru, of Machaya's case, that whereby people say to pay those kettles as a way of paying back the avenging spirit? So we should also look at those angles, which are, I don't know, how do you cancel that? Does it go for canceling avenging spirit? I don't know. It might sound somewhat different.
Okay.
Can you go for canceling? If you are entitled to pay, is it? but it sounds so different from the African traditional perspective. When we talk in terms of avenging spirit,
Okay.
yes, sometimes it doesn't need for you to go for counseling, go and see counselors. You're entitled to pay back. Yeah, and moreover, we have got also issues to do with how these counselors they handle the cases of an avenging spirit. Yeah, they must refer to the traditional healers to know these cases. If you can see someone who is in transform, you'll be talking in voices. And how do you treat that kind of a person? That aspect of the spiritual aspect, actually, I know with medical doctors, they don't understand. When someone is probably be possessed with these ancestors, as a spirit, probably it's mentally, that's form of mental, when one is in spiritual position, in transform, isn't it mental health? Or even having some kind of bad dreams, nightmares, isn't it mental health? Yeah. So in our traditional religion, we have got some kind of rituals which are done to heal that kind of mental health, which is somehow associated with the spiritual thing, the spiritual side. We mustn't just look at the physical side. Let's look also to the spiritual side. So that, yeah, if you combine the two, you'll find a better way of healing the person. That is what we understand.
Thank you, Mr. Mtandi. I'll also give Reverend to give a comment on this issue.
I want to start with what Jesse said about some of them seeking attention. Of an experience that I had of one of our church members who came to my house early in the morning and with his wife, and the wife was saying, I've brought him, he wants to commit suicide. Then I said, let me talk to him. Then I just asked him, is it true that you want to commit suicide? And he said, yes. Then I said, go ahead. And he laughed. He said, how can you say that? And I told him that yesterday I was at Mater Dei Hospital praying for some people who were saying, please, Mfundis, pray for me. I don't want to die. But you want to die. That's your wish. I will grant you the wish. Then he laughed, and from there we talked, and it was only an issue of attention seeking. Coming back to the issue that we are discussing here, the issues here is it's another area that is very complex that we might get into, like what he was saying, that the issue of someone just needs to, if you have to pay back, does that person need a counseling and professional help? Yeah, but as a Christian, for me, the first point of call is to pray for the person who is in whatever condition, and that's where we differ with my brother, that after praying, I don't refer people to him, obviously. I refer the people for medical attention to the professionals. But because the whole issue of what Prince is saying, and the people need to be paying back, that's the aspect that's the core of African traditional religion, of which as Christians we see things and we believe things differently. That once we pray, we believe that the second port of call is to seek medical attention, like what Jesse was saying, that sometimes that person can be on it can be healed completely, or that person can be on treatment, depressing the condition. We have witnessed that, and people are living in that condition.
Just to take you back, Rev, on the aspect of making people pay, let's say if they killed someone or stolen something. Where in the instances in the Bible whereby people were asked to pay? If they kill someone, they're asked to give their lambs or something like that.
Yes, that's what the Bible has got stories of such cases of people paying back what if you steal someone's thing or if you have killed somebody in the Old Testament. That now with the coming of Christ dying on the cross for all of us and the forgiveness coming from God Himself, from Christ Himself, that era of paying lambs for as rest as trying to redeem somebody who have done something. The blood of Christ is what we believe that He has paid it all. And for as long as somebody confesses, that the most important thing is to accept that I was wrong and I need to be forgiven. Then when we go back to the issues of how people live in the societies, in the African traditional religion, but even in the African culture, not really traditional religion, some people may feel compelled that we need to give something. There are also cases here in Zimbabwe where somebody would have committed murder and people would want to pay something and people would say, no, you don't have to pay. You can't replace the life. For what we wanted is justice, that you accept that what you did was wrong and we move on with life. It has happened.
All right, thank you so much, Rev, for clearing that. Over to you, Jesse. Jesse, what's the comment?
Thank you so much. I wanted to comment, maybe I wanted to try to simplify what we understand by mental health. I can safely say maybe this is how somebody feels, how somebody acts, or how somebody thinks in response to certain items or so. For instance, we are saying people are very so much different, and we expect people to think differently. But also, sometimes whenever you see somebody, the way he normally acts outside what the person used to do. For instance, today you see that somebody just running by, and then the next day, the person is running. But initially, that person used to walk along the way. You might need to find out why is the person running. So that deviation from how somebody thinks, acts, and responds to things can actually depict a state of a mental problem, mental illness. So, for instance, here we are talking about the issue of making healthy choices or healthy decisions. We expect every human being to make some healthy choices or healthy decisions. But whenever you see somebody, despite whatever the way person thinks, making some choices which are not healthy, you might actually check that as a mental problem or mental illness. So what Mr. Mchand was saying, those are some of the maybe the predisposing factors, according to them, which might actually lead to alteration of how somebody thinks, perceives things, and also how somebody acts and responds. So in this case, we are saying, despite whatever you are coming from, whatever background you are coming from, if you find that there is a change from how you used to think, and you find that maybe there's no healthy decision that you're making, that might actually be a red spot to suspect maybe there's a mental problem or maybe there's a mental issue, and that needs attention.
It seems like people are really interested about the whole aspect of spirituality. There's another comment online from Rev C. Takundwa saying, can we really say members of the society who are affected by avenging spirits, which need spiritual guidance and deliverance, in actual fact, they have mental health disturbance? So I think that has been addressed by Rev and also Jesse and Justice. Justice and Jersey have also addressed the issue, and Mr. Mutandi as well. But I would also want to pose a question to you, Justice, in terms of the male suicidal cases. What do you think is causing men to commit suicide?
Okay, the issue of mental health, mental problems is an issue which actually cuts across all the, despite gender or even age groups or so, it cuts across. But normally, let me say, what differs now is when you're looking at the women and the men, sometimes the women, they're more like they expose their emotions. But whereas men, they internalize their emotions. I don't know if you're getting me. So what I'm trying to say here is in most cases, when you're looking at the women, if she has got a mental problem, she tries to hibernate, or maybe she gets into an inner room, or then she starts maybe to be lonely from other people. Then you might suspect, I think there's something here. But when looking at the men, they become aggressive. You as a normal person, you used to talk well to the people, but whenever it gets home, you start harassing kids and so forth. Why are you doing this? Why you've done this and so forth? And then you might ask, I think this man was a problem as well. And ways when you're looking at men as well, sometimes they are a bit coercive when they have got these mental health problems. They become so much coercive. They demand things for their own favors and so forth. So back to your question, most men, in most cases, they have these issues to them and they are living with them because they are internalizing them. But you can only take note of it after maybe there's an encounter with somebody. So in this case, the fact that they internalize their issues, it means they don't have anyone to share with those issues. So this actually leads now to having more men having these suicides because they have internalized this is for so much, and no one have actually identified that they've got such cases. And then another thing is when you're looking at the rampant use of maybe drug and substance abuse and so forth, this might be also another factor which we might check as one of the contributing factors towards the suicide of men. And because men, they are utilizing, making use of these drugs more than what you might think of, they encounter such scenarios. And also the issue of relationships, mijolo and so forth. That's what the young call it. The issue of mijolo is some that most men, they are subject to abuse, but because our society, they say a man should not cry. Whenever you talk of maybe a marriage issue, people will say, we are and say. So because of that, they are moving, but they are moving people who are actually having some illness within them. They have nowhere to share. So the society, what the society said is actually contributing to men internalizing issues which they are supposed to be sharing with other people so that at least they get assistance. Whereas the female counterpart, you look at her today, she's lonely, but the next thing she's sharing with somebody, then she finds help, she's referred for some services and so forth. And so by the end of the day, we are having more men committing suicide than women.
I'll also give the same question to Mr. Mutandi. Why do you think that males are committing suicide now?
As I can see, men, why they are committing suicide is because, men, they always want to prove themselves tough every time. You understand? They normally don't simply do agree with like what women do. It's like as a man, sometimes even if I'm stressed, if I'm having some challenges, it's hard for me to go and even talk to someone to know I'm having the problems of this, I'm having some challenges. Sometimes it will be inside my mind, whereby I feel shy even to talk in front of what that they think probably you show your weakness. That is, if you happens to reveal your problems to someone, men feels like that to know probably if I talk my problem and they discuss my problem with someone, I'm showing my weakness. So I will die silent with it. You understand? That's one of the problems. And also, as I can also see, it's more like we should have also a platform to engage men because there are so many organizations which supports girl child than boy child. So that's why you can see most of the men, even the boys, they indulge into drugs because they are not protected. Girls are protected more than what? Boys. Yeah, even if it happens like you're having your children, a boy and a girl. If the boy comes late, you don't have a problem. But if it is the girl, between 6 o'clock, you start to worry about why is it you are coming home late like this? But for a boy, you say, no, it's not a problem. You see, so men end up knowing that they are not well protected, and in that way, always the girl child, and they are always taken on the wrong side most of the time. I think it's because of the languages. You see, that's why they end up committing even suicide. They will simply die silent. They do not, even if I happens to be beaten, if I'm having a domestic problem with my wife, if I'm beaten with my wife, if I go and report my case to the police station, do you know that the police will laugh at me? Why are you saying that you've been beaten by your wife? You see? So yes, so next time I don't go there, but I die silent. You see? So that's one of the problem with men. Yeah.
That's very true. I actually heard of a story of a guy who got beaten by his wife, and he went to report to the issue to the police, and yeah, they laughed at him. And and the guy was like, I didn't have to beat her back because I was respecting her because she's my wife. So I think society perceive men differently. I'll also pose the same question to you, Jesse. Why do you think we're having more suicidal cases of men?
I think they have, the two have actually summarized it quite well. They often call it toxic masculinity. This fact that men are told to toughen up. Now, the challenge that this toughening up issue has in our day is because if you look at way back, I think our fathers generations, the men would spend much of their time out there in the bush, right? Hunting with the lions, snakes, and all those things. And when they started going to school, they would wake up early in the morning, go to the fields, before they come back home to go to work. So you find that at that point, men were trained to be tough. So naturally, they were toughened by the situations and the circumstances that they were exposed to. Now, fast forward to the 70s, 80s, 2000s. There is no going out to face the lions and looking for the cattle and the snakes and stuff. So there is no toughening up that is happening. So men were told to be tough because they needed to be tough so that they can go out there and face the lions and face all the animals, the predators from devouring their head of cattle and stuff like that. So they were told to, and they were then put into situations that did toughen them up. But now managers are being called to toughen up, but with what? Yes. So it's just a theory, but no practice. So there is no toughening up there. Therefore, they find themselves very vulnerable. When the situations and the circumstances hit them hard, they just crumble. The World Health Organization statistics say that women are 3 times more likely to develop a mental health conditions. So for every 3 women, there's 1 man with a mental health condition because of other reasons that probably if we had time would explain. But men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide. And I believe it's because of the same situation, that because there is no toughening up. And as he said that, for women, we were taught to say, when you are, go and talk to your mom and stuff like that. And we were just, making sure that we got the counseling and the support that we needed. But the same is not happening to the men. Therefore, when a man is faced with circumstances that are a bit too hard for him, because he is liquid inside, there's no toughness there, it's salad only. The next thing is, I'm going to die. And one of the reasons why then more men are likely to die than women is because men tend to use more lethal means, like the guns. When a man wants to die, they will die. But with women, we were told that if you want to die, take 45 tablets. They'll take 30. So that's one of the reasons why then there are more men that are dying to suicide than that. For me, it's a matter of lack of toughness. So we then need to come in as individuals and as churches and organizations to say, okay, fine, there is no more going out into the bush to meet the lions. What can we do to toughen the men in our days? Right. Instead of just assuming that a man is tough, he's got, tough, right. How? When no one has taught him. So we need to come up with interventions where we need to say, let's go. Those men's conferences that they go to, I don't know what they are teaching it either, but there's need to take men through, some toughening, like what the soldiers do go through, just toughen someone up, But in this case, we are not talking about the physical toughness, but we are talking about the mental toughness, because it's now rare for us to then find a bush where we can find lions. I mean, they will be devoured. We then need to deal with mental toughness more than like in the physical way, but in terms of teaching someone that if you are faced with a problem, this is how you respond. If a situation like this happens, this is how you say to yourself, because in life, what kills us, Elizabeth, is not what happens to us. What causes you to say, I'm going to commit suicide, is not just because you found your boyfriend with your best friend. No, it is how you react to what you found your friend doing with your boyfriend that causes you to then commit suicide. So we need to go through lessons and workshops on how to react in the right way so that life challenges and issues do not crush us, but we remain resilient. We may fall. There's a song that we sing at church, this is what we need to be trained. We need to be tough so that when we fall, we rise back again. So I think there is a huge gap in terms of training our men to be mentally tough so that they can be as tough as our grandfathers, fathers.
Thank you so much, Jessie, for such an interesting comment. I'll also give the same opportunity to Rev to give a comment on Jess's idea.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I think she has summed it up well. I don't think I need to add anything else. But also, but what I can just add is on the issue of toughening up the mind of. Now let me refer to the boy child. It appears that the society realized how vulnerable the girl child was, and the efforts that are being put in trying to toughen them and also protect them. But the danger now is that the boy child is being neglected because our minds are engineered to think that they are already tough, yet they are no longer tough. So I think we need to come up with initiatives to help the boy child to be able to face and conquer the challenges of today.
Thank you so much, Rev. Just going through the comments that have been shared online. Rev Norman Temple commented saying that the way men were socialized makes them put up face in the face of problems. Then from Winnet, she said, I think it's a matter of going to the right place. There's need to raise more awareness on services that can help men to speak out. At the police station, there's a Department of Victim-Friendly Unit where there are officers who are trained to deal with such issues. It's a matter of continuously raise awareness and engagement to speak out. Mental health is a real challenge, and men are also human beings. So just to round up now, we now need to come up with a mechanism that can also help us to curb these mental health problems. So I'll start with you, Mr. Mutandi. What do you think should be done to curb mental health problems? And what do you think you can also do as Zinata, as an institution, to curb this problem?
So with the problem of mental health, what we, as Zinata, we can also help in we call it psychosocial intervention. That is, with the spiritual side, we have to check out both sides, the spiritual and the physical side. Because let's look at all angles. If we want to care about the problem of mental health, we mustn't look just on one side. And probably might be poverty, it might be drugs, it might be this. And let's try to find out why is it this man starts even smoking like this, drinking beer like this. Probably it's not like because of poverty or anything. It might be something of the spiritual. So if it is a spiritual problem, let's try and refer those people who specialize in spiritualism. Let's be players. We mustn't say, I'm not there to say the Christian side, they don't have a party to play. Even the biomedical doctors, they don't have a party to play. Let us all be players into this to try to help, to try to engage, especially the boy child. in men, so that we know they are faced with a lot of problems. And problem comes in a disguised solution. The men should stand. They should have art of solving that problem. They must stand and must be brave. But so that the suicides, we don't have so many suicides. Having also some kind of workshops. A lot of workshops are needed for men. We need organizations which stands for men. And I think UN also, I think it must start with WHO or even UN, so that they must try to empower organizations that deals with men, boy, child. Because we understand there is a lot of men, normally they shy because they're always taken on the wrong side. That's why you end up having a lot of suicides. With the mental health, as a matter, we play a very important role also, because we are able to solve also the spiritual side. If the problem is of Zinata, yes, better to refer to Zinata. Because there are some issues whereby it's not just a matter way of counseling, but like if we've been talking about it, because it doesn't need counseling. Don't waste your time on counseling. But you are meant to pay, let's say, for the Avenging Spirit, not counseling. So you should look at those angles and seek to know this case is of Shidoma. No, there's no need for you for counseling. Refer to the people who are specialized. Yes. So we need a platform of sharing amongst all players in order for us to solve this issue of mental health.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ntandi. So he's saying that we need to work as one to form a coalition to solve this problem, is it? Over to you, Rev. What do you think should be done from the church's angle?
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. As a church, particularly the Zimbabwe Council of Churches, there are quite a number of initiatives that we are doing in trying to help and address and accompany other partners in dealing with the issues of mental health. Number one, we established a helpline and trained some of our ministers in all the provinces of the country who are acting as focal points rather, so that whenever there are cases and issues, people can phone them, and those ministers of religion can respond to those issues, because we realize that this thing is happening in the communities, and at times it's not easy for those people to quickly find help. So we have realized that ministers can be convenient people who can quickly help and even refer or attend to the issues of mental health, or issues that may lead to mental health, so that they may be dealt with whilst there's still time. As the Zimbabwe Council of Churches, representing churches in Zimbabwe, we have also come up with what we call the multidisciplinary expert facility, where we have got a group of experts responsible for overseeing issues that arise in our communities, and trying to address them, and even refer on issues that that group of professionals may not be able to assist. But our ultimate goal is to try to deal with the issues of mental health, to address it and its causes. So that is abuse and all those things. So that's one of the facilities that we have found very helpful as a church that we are using. But also we have looked at the issue of training. We had one training that we had with the WHO, where we trained religious leaders, not only Christian leaders, but leaders from the Muslim community, the Muslim faith, Zinata, and other various religious bodies Zimbabwe Catholic Bishops Conference, Pentecostal Assemblies, and even the all those people, we have included them in that initiative. Where they were being trained on how to handle and to deal with mental health issues. But not only that, but for them to go and also cascade the information and train other people or in the grassroots. And the program that we had cascaded to training of a number of people. I think the program ended up having about 93,000 people being trained. So that's what, as a church, that's one of the initiatives that we have taken. We have embarked on in trying to address this issue, but also the issue of our engagement in the communities in various ways, in trying to advocate for this issue that is at hand here. And in some institutions like in Chipinge, that Tongogara refugee camp, we have also had some trainings there and some engagement where we are trying to help to curb the problem of mental health, considering that we have over 15,000 refugees there, and the issues of their displacement from their countries and what they've gone through. Some of them, they've run away from war situations and they've seen people dying. They've lost their relatives. This is why they are here. And all those people have got they've got potential mental health cases hanging over their heads. And we have reached out to such people. And not only that, but we have also engaged internally displaced people. After cyclones and these disasters that have been falling our country, and we have been there trying to help them in dealing with these issues, and also trying to help them to cope with whatever they will be facing in the disasters that have befallen them, so that they will be able to cope with life and avoid possible mental health challenges. In short, I think that's what I can say. But as a church, we are doing quite a lot. But just to conclude, I may add the issue of safe shelters that we have come up with, where we have got one here in Harare, here at our offices. So where we shelter victims of abuse, so that we can help them, so that they can know the challenges or the abuse that they went through may not end up pushing them into serious mental health issues that may ultimately lead to suicidal tendencies. Otherwise, that's what we are doing. But as a church, our hands are on the deck in dealing with the issues of mental health challenges.
Thank you, Rev. So what do you think should also be the way forward as a church to also cap this problem?
One of the things is that to mainstream the issues of mental health challenges, and not to be afraid of talking about them in our churches, and also to capacitate particularly our church ministers in dealing with these issues, and also to help our church members to speak out, to really speak out, and not view this as something that because already mental health issues are associated with stigma, and the churches should come out now to say we are a home to everyone. We accept that this is a challenge that is with us, and we have to deal with it head on.
I'll also pose the same questions to Jersey. What have you done to deal with the mental health problems, and also what you think is the way forward to deal with these problems?
Thank you so much, Liz. Just to start on a light note, I want to say to Mr. Njandi that I happen to know some people who are in the medical field, and I have heard that there are people that were brought to them who had been attacked, like having spiritual attacks, and they were put under some medication and they went back home okay. Okay. And okay, back to your question. I think the first thing is I'm so overjoyed to know that the Zimbabwean community has taken up this mental health issue so much. You hear a lot that is happening. I mean, I was just amazed as he was going through the programs, the training and everything. I mean, it's such a joy to know that this issue of mental health is no longer a taboo in our communities and in our organizations and in our societies. So it's really a huge plus for me. And I feel everyone should actually, you know, get themselves involved in one way or the other, just to make sure that this issue of mental health is that everyone is like doing together. You know, the way that the world at large fought COVID-19. I mean, we given guidelines, you know, sanitization, masks, and social distancing, and everyone from the north, south, east, and west, we all worked together. And now look where we are. We are almost over the pandemic. And I believe this is the kind of approach that we need to take with regards to mental health, because I was reading an article which was actually saying that mental health is, that was during COVID, that mental health is a worse off pandemic than COVID. So definitely we need to put our heads together. Now, as Be Mindfit, we are a mental health awareness organization. So what we mainly do is awareness, raising awareness. I often follow comments on social media. I think I mentioned that earlier on, where people comment following maybe an attempted suicide or a successful suicide case. When you read those comments, you can actually see that people are so ignorant. And because people are ignorant, you know, when you are ignorant, that's when this thing will attack you. The Bible says in Hosea 4 verse 6, my people perish because of lack of knowledge. So we have come in as Be Mindfit to raise awareness. And first and foremost, we do have awareness activities that include, we have a Facebook page where on a weekly basis we talk about mental health awareness. We're actually going to have a session this evening to commemorate because today is World Mental Health Day, and we are continuing to get information from reliable sources and we pass it on to the audience. We also have WhatsApp groups. There are WhatsApp platforms where on a weekly basis, every Thursday, we do also share information on mental health with regards to issues that we're talking about here. Because he mentioned the issue of stigma. Stigma is the #1 enemy to mental wellness, because the moment we stigmatize mental illnesses, it means that the person who is affected is going to be afraid to come out in the open to say, hey, I'm having mental health problems. Why? Because everyone thinks that someone with a mental health condition, something is wrong with them. They are dysfunctional. Either they've, you know, it's associated with demonic possession or with ngozi, as he was saying, and all sorts of things. And usually people don't want to be associated with such things. So because of the stigma surrounding mental health issues, people don't want to reach out and get help. Even if, let's say, for example, your friend commits suicide, you may actually be afraid to go to her family to offer consolation because of the stigma associated. You going to suicide, whatever, but you know, that kind of thing. So now awareness is one of the biggest, most effective weapons, one of the weapons against stigma, because stigma arises from ignorance. When someone does not know what mental health is, how someone gets to be affected by mental health and why someone gets a mental health condition, they are prone to just be judgmental and paint people and label people that is because they are not good enough, it's because they are like this, is because they've got demons following them that they've met. So because of that ignorance, that mental health conditions are perpetrated because people who are affected do not go out to get help because of fear of being stigmatized. So we come in with awareness. We've got awareness programs for organizations. We go to corporate organizations and we provide training on mental health awareness. We go to churches. As well, we've got a program for mental health awareness. I mean, he was talking about the cases of that there was mental health, or there is mental health in the Bible. Yes, there is. If you look at the story of David, that man was a man after God's own heart. But if you listen to some of his songs, he was depressed. You can tell that this man was depressed. Look at Elijah after he had conquered the 450 prophets of Baal. He went and hid under a tree and said, God, you know what? I cursed the day I was born. Please take me. I don't want. So you find that all those people, it may not have been a long-term condition, but at some point they did experience mental health conditions. So we actually do have programs for churches where we then highlight that, look, this was even there in the Bible. That's why he quoted Isaiah 61. That's why Isaiah 61 is there. God knew that there were people who were going to be bound with mental health conditions, and he had to send Jesus Christ in advance to provide a way out for those who were going to suffer. So it does not mean that when you have a mental health condition, you don't pray, you don't have faith. No, those things are there. So we also help the church to like open up and be able to come up with programs to support their members with mental health issues. We also have a mental health program for the young people, which we call mysafespace.com, where we teach young people how to deal with stress. Because one of the reasons why young people end up doing drugs and other things that are really out of this world is because they don't know how to handle stress. The stress that we faced in our day is totally different from what they are exposed to. They know things and see things on gadgets that we cannot even afford to look at. So it's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of stress, it's a lot of stuff that's coming onto them that their brains are not even developed enough to handle. So we teach young people how to handle stress in a healthy way, so that they don't end up going for interventions that end up hurting them. So in summary, we are contributing in terms of raising awareness, that people may know that this thing is real. What can you do? What is the impact? How do you alleviate the impact of mental health issues if you find yourself that you are affected? Yeah.
Lanya, Jesse, have you also tried to engage other religious sectors apart from the church?
Religious sectors as
others, like such as Muslims, the ATRs.
Oh, okay. That's not at the moment. We were just, currently dealing with the churches.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. But you look forward to engaging with other religions?
Absolutely, because mental health is mental health. A human being is a human being. They have a soul created by God, and everyone deserves to receive the help and the assistance when they need it. Yeah.
You, Jesse?
Okay. On what we've done, I won't do much. I think Reverend mentioned everything. I would like to talk about maybe what we think we should do. I've observed that there's a lot of there's a knowledge gap within mental health, because people, they lack information despite having the increase in the utilization of social media and so forth. But I don't know why is it that the boys, they are not reading the page that pertains to mental health and so forth, because it's still affecting them. So I think we need to close up the knowledge gap between the boys, because when you look at the side of the females, we've got two fields here, and the field for the ladies, for the girls, is almost complete, but that for the boys is not even a quarter. So I think we need more laborers, so that at least we need to try and push so that more males have got information pertaining to the issue of mental health. So one of the issues is about what has been said by Reverend, the issue of mainstreaming mental health in all programs, be it church programs or any program that I might think of. We need to really mainstream the issue of mental health, so that at least we accelerate the male engagement pertaining to these issues. And when you're talking of also the issues of mental health, we don't need also to leave the issue of gender-based violence, because it's also one of the issues which is actually precipitating the issue of mental health. So we need to close those two gaps, the issue of gender-based violence and also the issue of mental health. We've addressed that way. And how can we do this? We need a comprehensive approach to this. When you're talking of the country as of Zimbabweans or the nation, we are looking at a community, something that consists of all the religions. We've got the Muslim within that same community. We've got the Zinata within that same community. We've got other people without religion within that same community. But we need to have these people together, so that we say, how best can we address this? Then we now say, you guys, can you go through that angle? We go through this angle. Then by the end of the day, I will make sure that we complete our field work. And we have all the boys equipped with capacity with knowledge on mental health. Then by the end of the day, we will have 0 deaths related to mental health.
Thank you so much, Justice. And I'd also like to thank all of our panelists. And I hope that all those who are watching this video were also informed and educated. And concluding, I think that we have to work together as a people so that we can be able to deal with these mental health problems. But if you want to keep on engaging on this topic, you can always visit our Oikos Studio page on Facebook, also on Twitter. We are also there on YouTube. We can always carry on these conversations, and we'll keep on coming up with different topics that we can discuss. And if you also have a suggestion of a topic that you would want us to have a discussion on, you can always visit us on our social media platforms. And I hope that you have enjoyed, and I hope that you were also educated, because this was a very, very informative discussion that we had. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.